rolling.
I'll
do it.
Cool.
Yep. All right.
Awesome.
Welcome to another episode of Controlling the Zone with myself, Kyle Wilson, and my co-host Danny Healy. Healy, what's happening, brother?
Not much, man. Excited to hear from the founder of LegKick Nation today.
Yeah, we had a little bit of off-air chat, and I'm super pumped. It's 9:30 in the morning, and we're all fired up on bangs and ready to get going. We're super caffeinated, but this guest was a Division I athlete at Wofford College. He's a current economics teacher in New Jersey, and he's the owner of Team Invictus, not LegKick Nation, but that's what it started as. He's their director of skill performance, and we call him the father of the flow school. Steve Johnson, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it. Good to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm going to get this out of the way in the beginning. A lot of times we end shows with how can people get in touch with you, but I know that this episode is going to be fantastic. So I want our listeners to be able to take notes and how they can get in touch with you. So if they want to, how would they go about doing it?
Yeah, on Twitter, it's LegKick Nation OG. I've told the story multiple times, but I used to just be LegKick Nation. And then I tried being a little bit more professional and changing it to like something, a little bit more professional. And someone's like literally within 5 minutes took LegKick Nation. And I was like, damn it. So when I went back, I had to change it to LegKick Nation OG. And then on Instagram, it's just LegKick Nation. So, and then the business that we run is at Team Invictus on Instagram.
Sweet. Well, could you give us a little dive, a little look into your background in terms of how your playing background, how you kind of got into teaching and coaching now?
Yeah. So basically I played in college in South Carolina. Wasn't very good, so I didn't play beyond college, but I got a banking job in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Did it for 6 months and realized that just wasn't for me. I missed sort of being a student. I missed the education system, which is ironic because I blast the education system now. So I moved back to New Jersey, became a teacher and a coach, and then got involved in travel baseball. Didn't really even know what the hell travel baseball was, and then I learned fast what travel baseball was. And then we started, I quit because I just grew disenfranchised with the entire industry. I was like, I'm out, I'm done with this because a lot of this is a scam. And I'll just be the first to admit that. I mean, most of the things I see within the travel baseball world is an absolute scam. So I quit and left. And then like these kids that I coach when they're like 15, they texted me like 2 years later and was like, yo, can you start a team? And I was like, nah, man, I'm done. I'm not coaching. And they're like, well, we're putting together a team and we're going to wear t-shirts and you're going to coach third. And I was like, fuck it. Let's do it. So it was like me and like 8 kids that I used to coach, and we played in some fall league, and we just had so much fun. We had like 2 outfielders. I had a lefty catcher, lefty playing shortstop. It was awesome. It was just great. And we just smoked everybody. So it was a lot of fun, and they're like, yo, can we keep doing this? And I was like, maybe we'll have a winter training. Like I'll get a cage somewhere and we'll hit. So we did that. But again, like I wasn't charging any money and I wasn't making them pay. So I went to a buddy of mine. I was like, dude, what hours do you have that like literally no one is here? So I can't, so I can kick you some lunch money and we'll be good. And he's like, Friday night at like 9:30. And I'm like, all right, how would it? Let's see if that works. So I didn't think anyone would show because we're talking about 16 to 17-year-old kids on a Friday night, and every kid showed. So like that first like Friday, everyone was there. The next Friday, all of a sudden 2 new kids come. The next Friday, we had like another 5 kids. I was like, Jesus, it was like almost like Fight Club. Like just random kids started like showing up to this like hitting sessions. So from there, we kind of grew out a travel program. We called it the Mavericks because, we want to do things our own way. So like I'm kind of very weird when I coached. I don't coach third base. Like there's no coaches on the bases at all. I stay in the dugout. Kids call their own game. The only thing that I make everyone do is just play really aggressive. So they had to steal bases. So they had to steal second. They had to steal third. If they got thrown out, we'd make fun of them. It was great. And then they had to take daddy hacks. And that's really where LegKick Nation came from. So we were called Mavericks, but every kid on our team was just taking these monster leg kick swings because I was like, dude, you got to swing as hard as you can. So we had like these 5'5" kids falling over, their helmet, falling on their head. So all these college coaches, and we were a first-year team, all these college coaches are watching this team just take monster hacks. And like, you know how it is, 99% of them are like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. And we're talking trash. Everyone's having fun, running bases, doing stupid stuff. And they're like, this is awful. But because it was different, everyone just used to come to our games. Just like, so you either had the people making fun of it or the people being like, yo, this is awesome. Let's, like I like these kids. I want to recruit these kids. So our games would just get packed. And the college coaches started calling us LegKick Nation. They were like, oh, dude, all your kids LegKick, blah, blah. I never taught them to LegKick. I never told them to LegKick. I just said, take monster hacks. And so everyone literally just took these monster hacks. And that's where LegKick Nation grew out of. And, then we got a little facility, like 3,000 square feet. I made it a membership facility. So it was just our kids. They can come every single day. And then we've grown since then. So now we have like 30,000 square feet. We started with 8 kids. Now we have, I think, over 300. So it's just grown. I mean, we're no longer doing a lot of the crazy stuff we used to do. We tamed it down a little bit, but we still try to have as much fun as possible. And I'll say the core like philosophy that we had and the principles that we developed to start the facility are exactly the same, So and I took a lot of those principles from my education background and from what I believe the school system should be. So that's why on Twitter, a lot of people will DM me and be like, man, you talk a lot about, for a baseball guy, you talk a lot about school. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm a school guy that talks a lot about baseball. So, that's the 10-minute rant on my background, I guess.
Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, as coaches, we're all teachers to some extent, but not only keeping kids off the streets on Friday nights, teaching kids how to hit dongs, and the whole LegKick Nation thing. I mean, that came about pretty organically, and there are a lot worse things your program or organization could be known for. So that's pretty sweet. It's a super tough question, but who would you say is the most influential person in your life when it comes to athletics?
Wow. That is a tough question. The most influential in my life when it comes to athletics?
Mm-hmm.
Damn. I mean, I guess you could always say your dad. It's so funny. We have so many dads come in and they'll be like, oh, my kid doesn't listen to me and all this different stuff. And I just laugh because I was that kid, like I didn't listen to a word my dad said growing up. And then when you start getting older and you become a grown up, you're like, well, damn, he was more right than he was wrong. So I've taken a lot of good things from him. I've also changed a lot of things that I disagreed with from him. But yeah, I would say my dad was probably the most influential to where I am right now.
And I would say you were just like everybody else. It's the same way with me. I'm sure it's the same way with Danny. And then we see kind of the life cycle of kids, as I'm sure you do as well, come up through the facility. And then, after a while, they're like, it's that thing of like, they don't know the impact that you have on them until, 10, 15 years down the road. Yep. So that's really cool. But you told us that you got in, once you got done with Wofford, you got into banking. And then in an unbelievable area in Hilton Head, right? Like that is a destination spot and anyone would love to live there. But you decide to get out of that because obviously you weren't passionate about sitting at a desk and dealing with corporate America, and you get into teaching. So what was the reason behind getting into the school system, moving back up to New Jersey and teaching kids in the classroom?
Yeah, it's so funny because, when you're a kid, like you said, you just there's a narrative set for you. You go to school, you go to college. If you're good enough, you go play pro ball. If you're not good enough, you go do something else and you go on with your life. But there's always this like foundational purpose, right? So like when you guys play baseball and all the kids that play baseball, there's always like a general purpose behind playing baseball, getting good and, going to the weight room with your team, training, doing all different stuff. And then all of a sudden I got into banking and I was like, man, there's no purpose. Like for me, like my purpose wasn't here. And some of the guys I worked with loved what they did. That just wasn't me. So I was like, man, that was, and I talk a lot about it on my Twitter about purpose, like finding something, that just motivate and drives you to your core, So I looked. I was like, man, where can I find this purpose? And I'm a huge reader. I read a lot, and I read, different. I was reading about philosophy. I was an economics major, so I always reading about like the economic philosophy. And I was like, man, it'd just be really cool to kind of stay in that world. And I was like, well, how can I do that? Well, maybe a school system. So, I got into teaching and I got into schools, and it was not what I, thought it was going to be, to be honest with you. So that's when I started, just blasting the system, because I think it just separates kids from purpose, which is like ironically how I got to school, right? And then I'm seeing, wait, this system doesn't have any purpose. So, that's how I got into teaching, just chasing my purpose and chasing the passion that I had. And that's why, I mean, to be candid with y'all, like, I don't need to teach. I run a business that could, sustain my lifestyle. But I just love being in a classroom. Like, I really do. So, that's why I do it.
Let's talk about the education system a little bit, so you can get on the bashing train again. But I've heard you talk a little bit about this teacher king thing, and
yeah,
it's not only relevant in just the classroom, but it's relevant in any walks of coaching and anything that we do. So talk a little bit about the education system and how you view that it's flawed in a sense. Like, what can we be doing better in the education system to make it more productive and make kids better problem solvers in our community on a day-to-day?
And you just said it. So, like, it transcends the classroom. Like, what we do here in our facility, when you coach, when you play athletics, when you're a parent, all that stuff is so connected. So the number one flaw I see with the system is a foundational flaw. And that, once you have foundational flaws, it's very difficult to like correct. So a lot of things that like I see right now going on in the system is based on this, including in teaching and instruction and in coaching, is based on this theory of like bucket knowledge. So we think that like if I have a bucket in my brain and it's filled with some sort of information, I can pour that information into a student's brain. And that is what learning is, and that's what knowledge is. I don't believe that that is true at all. Knowledge, I believe, is created, right? So like we trial and error. I try to figure stuff out. I fail, I learn, I grow, I figure stuff out again. I fail, I learn, I grow. That's how we actually create knowledge. There's no bucket in any kid's head that I can just, pour into. We're not computers. You can't upload something. So like from a foundational perspective, if you believe that you can pour your bucket into someone else's, then yeah, a kid's going to come in for a one-on-one lesson and I'm going to tell them how to hit. A team I'm going to have and I'm going to tell them how to play. A classroom, I'm going to tell them exactly what they need to know. That system to me is significantly flawed because it's not how knowledge is created. So from there, okay, well then if we believe then that knowledge is created, then that means the student needs to be at the center of his own like knowledge creation. So the analogy I always use is like, a bus. When I see instruction, sports instruction, when I see most classrooms, the teacher, the coach, the instructor is the one driving the bus, is the one getting the kids to the destination, is the one telling the kids, okay, well, we're going to make a right here. Look out the window. There's something. The way I run it is I'm in the passenger seat. The kid is driving and we're just going to go. And I'm just going to let him drive. And he may drive for an hour in the wrong direction, but guess what? He's going to learn that, oh shit, I just drove in the wrong direction. And what's funny about that, Kyle, is when you're driving in the wrong direction, you're going to see stuff. And maybe that was actually the right direction. That's what blows my mind about coaches, instructors, teachers. How are we omnipotent enough to know what is the right direction for anyone? Right? So how do I know, oh yeah, we should make a right here, then a left, and then a right, and you should look at this and this and this? I don't know that. Maybe that kid should drive an hour that way and look at those trees and look at all that stuff. Maybe that would benefit his life so much better. So I laugh at all these dudes, like, I look at video of Derek Jeter when he was like 15 years old, and he looks like Derek Jeter, but he has like this handset and all this other stuff. And I always wonder, like, what if someone coached some of that stuff out of Derek Jeter? Because really it was a flaw. Like, that was a technical flaw. Like, and I guess the more common one would be Bryce Harper. So like when Bryce Harper was 15, he had flaws. And you go on Twitter and you see all about Bryce Harper's flaws from all the other hitting gurus out there that know more than Bryce Harper. But, what if he needed that flaw when he was 15 to become Bryce Harper when he's 30? You know what I mean? Like, so what if you need to drive the bus in the wrong direction for a while to understand what the right direction is? Or maybe, hell, shoot, that was the right direction for you, and I was wrong the whole time. So, like, that those analogies is how I found, my teaching and our facility. So the students are at the driver's wheel, and I'm just the resourceful guide in the passenger seat. But then the student at the driver can then say, well, I don't necessarily just want to listen to your voice. Maybe there's some kids in the back that I want to listen to as well. Or maybe I just want to turn on the damn radio and not listen to anybody. So, like, that is generally how I believe the system should be. It should be a lot of, driving towards your curiosity, what you're passionate about, and then figuring shit out with resourceful guides that are also trying to figure shit out. Like, I don't know everything. I'm trying to figure cool shit out. So like while I'm continuing my process, maybe you're like, yo, you're figuring cool shit out. I want to figure cool shit out too. I'm like, yo, let's figure some cool shit out together. And that's literally how we run the facility. Figure cool shit out. Whether it's baseball. I mean, dude, you guys see our hitting group chat. It's a hitting group chat. It's labeled hitting. We talk hitting like 5% of the time. You know what I mean? Like, we talk about, I mean, right now, obviously, we talk about Black Lives Movement. We talk about politics. We talk about economics. You name it. Why? Because kids are curious about this stuff. I have a 2-year-old son. I'll be playing, it's so funny. And when you have a kid, you start realizing, like, you see why the system is the way it is. I have a 2-year-old son, and, like, I want him to be athletic, and I want him to play sports. So I'm like, yo, so I got him a little basketball net. So I'm like, yo, dude, here's a basketball. Go shoot. So he grabs some dinosaurs and starts playing with dinosaurs. I'm like, God damn, this kid wants to play with dinosaurs, not shooting. So I'm like pissed off. And I'm like, why isn't he shooting? So then I was like literally just one day just shooting. I'm literally just shooting myself on this stupid little net. And what does he do? He wanders his little ass over there and he starts shooting with me. Why? Because he's curious. If I forced him to come over here and say, hey, you're going to shoot, he's not going to grow. He's not going to like it. It's not his purpose. It's not his passion. It's mine. So that's what, like, if I could use one word to like label what my goal is just empowerment. Like, I want all these kids to be empowered. Like, and I tell them all the time, if you succeed, it's your success. But if you fail, it is also your failure, because I think you need to own that failure. Like, you need to take autonomy and agency over everything in your life. So, I mean, that was, again, a long-winded answer, but in terms of the school system, that's why I think the school system, and again, I'm involved in it. I get paid from it, so it's kind of hypocritical, I guess. But I think the school system at a foundational level is corrupt. The system is Bismarck. It's from Bismarckian times, from Prussia, from the 1800s, when you needed little assembly workers, and you needed people not to question government, or you didn't need creative thinkers. Now we need creative thinkers. So we need a new system that basically helps kids become creative thinkers by allowing them to be curious and allowing them to, take ownership over their own world. So
I love that. And I mean, you talk about how we can't expect guys to take ownership of their failure if they don't take ownership of their process, and how the process is the goal. And another favorite line of yours that I love is you're with, not above the kids. So that's the environment that I think is healthy for these kids to grow. But I'm curious, how much with preaching that environment and with the system, like you talk about, kind of being designed to prepare guys for a test to get the grades and the scores, like how much heat do you get from your faculty at school?
Yeah, I mean, so like I was under the radar a lot. Like, I just kind of did my own thing. I teach AP economics. Nobody knows economics, right? So it's not like anyone can even have a conversation with me about it, right? So like I was just kind of in my own world. And then I got on Twitter. You know, and you could just see different people being like, I could tell that those people were reading my tweets, you know, like I was like, oh no. Because again, like I said, we all, if you're in teaching, it's because you're passionate about helping others, right? So I'm not saying like teachers are bad people, and coaches or instructors are bad people. What I'm saying is, by you wanting to help them so much, you're actually handcuffing their growth, right? So like I want to help, like, and you see parents all the time do this. You want to help the kids so much. I want them to succeed so bad. So we kind of help him in the right direction. So like, it's so funny to me, the game of school. And I tell my kids this all the time. If you want an A in school, it is really easy to get an A in school because teachers want to help you. So like, you know, on a test, you go up to the teacher and you're like, oh, I mean, I'm between A and B. I can't really, I know that this, and they're like, oh, you know, it might be that one. And you're like, dude, like the whole thing is such a game where grades should just like, and I'm another big proponent on honest feedback. You know, like I love feedback because it helps growth. So grades are supposed to be feedback, not a judgment tool. So I was actually talking to Kyle Wagner a little bit about this yesterday. Like grades have turned into, well, they always were, but they're a way to judge and a way to get kids to compete with one another to see who's better at this game of school. I just don't believe in that. So at the risk of getting fired, when, you know, hopefully not too many teachers watch this, I tell the kids from day one, you want an A, dude? You got an A. I could give a shit. What do you want? You want an A? I'll give you an A. So like when a kid gives me a paper and I read it and I mark it up, I'll give them a C on purpose. Just like I'll give them a C. Here you go. And then again, I teach AP kids, so they all want A's. They'll, how did I get a C on this? Well, tell me why you deserve an A. You know, did you put your blood and soul into this? That, you know, you proved to me you deserve an A. And usually they're like, well, you know, I did blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, dude, you got your A. There it is. I mean, I don't care. The grade isn't for me. It's for you. So if you prove to me that you're getting after it and you're curious and you want to learn, cool. I can't tell you how many assignments I've given over the years now, where I'll give an assignment on something. So let's just make it up. Like here's an assignment on Keynesian philosophy, right? So like go do some assignment on the differences between Keynesian and Hayek.
My favorite.
And the kid gives me a paper on legalization of marijuana in New Jersey. And you're like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? And I'll be like, dude, why? I was curious in this, and this is what I want. Awesome, dude. Good for you. Did you learn? Did you grow? Did you develop? Yep. Do you need my help? Do you need my assistance? Yeah, no, I got it. Or yeah, I do. Like, what do you think? To me, that's everything. You know, so when kids take ownership of their learning and their education, use me as a resourceful guide, dude, that's it. I don't really care about that. So yeah, in terms of grading, I don't really grade. I mean, I give kids all the grade that I think that they, you know, they deserve, I guess you can say.
So Steve Johnson is now in charge of the whole school system across the country.
Yeah.
And even from the micro, maybe just the state of New Jersey, right? Maybe the state of New Jersey needs it more than anyone. But you're in charge of everything. How do you go about instilling this change in our education system?
So in my worldview, if you did what I would believe, every school would look completely different, right? Because you're going to have some communities that maybe want what we have right now, right? Like maybe those communities, those parents, those kids, no, you know what? I like to sit in my desk. I like to learn, or I like to hear from the teacher chirp at me. I like to take tests. Cool, dude, do that. Have at it, Hoss. You know what I mean? If that's the community and that's what you want, awesome. Where then my school is going to be a little bit different. So I think if I had the vision or the power to do it, which, you know, isn't a thing, it would be at the individual level. Like it'd be at the community level. You know, I believe in localism. It's like a practice, you know, a philosophical practice. You know, I don't understand why kids in New Jersey are in the same exact system as kids in California, Colorado, whatever, you know. Now, maybe they choose to be, that's cool, but it should be their choice, you know? So my school, like I have a write-up of what my school would look like, or our school, I should call it, but it would be about kids, you know, following their curiosity and creating. And maybe others would want a similar school, and that's cool, you know? And so then maybe the entire country would be like, yo, that school right there is awesome. Let's do that. But I think I would be really, really hypocritical if I said, well, every single school should look like this, right? Because that's the exact opposite of what I believe in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's awesome. And you just got a little insight that Steve did in fact play in the South because he dropped a Haas. So I know that's not a Jersey line. So for our listeners that don't listen to the Joe Rogan Experience, what is flow?
What is flow? Yeah, flow. I mean, the technical definition of flow from Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. What a name, by the way.
Yeah,
Is um, it's basically turning off your awareness of yourself, right? So like time kind of goes away. Most people, the best description that everyone seems to get is when you're playing video games, do you know like your name? Do you know what the time is? Do you know how long you've been playing video games? When you're flowing in a video game, it's like 7 hours go by. You're like, oh my God, dude, 7 hours just passed. What the hell just happened? That's flow. Generally, I think most sports that, like basketball, soccer, most sports, it's very easy to participate while in flow, right? Because games is going, a turnover here, turnover there, boom, boom, boom. J.R. Smith gets so much shit for not knowing what the score was a couple years ago. Remember, he got the rebound. It was a tie game. He dribbled it out, and you're like, dude, that is why J.R. Smith is in the NBA. Like that dude would shoot 15. Because he's from around where I'm from. I played him in high school. That dude would shoot 15 threes and miss all 15. Like just clang, like whatever. And then the 16th shot, he's like, dude, got it, boom. Because like there was no like, oh, I'm J.R. Smith. People are judging me. I feel bad about. I shouldn't shoot this shot. And that was me. So I would miss one shot, and I'd be like, oh God, no, people are looking at me. Oh, this is embarrassing. I can't believe I did that. And you start hearing your words talk. You're like, I, Steve, people looking at me. And you start getting outside your own brain, and you can't function. You get handcuffed. So it's funny to me that like people blaming J.R. Smith for not knowing the score and everything. You're like, that's why J.R. Smith is in the NBA, because he had that ability to just, nothing exists. I'm just gonna grab a ball and shoot it. Who gives a shit? And to me, that is what flow is in terms of sports. I've connected flow in learning, because going back to school, and I hate to talk too much about school here, but you go from my class 80 minutes in economics. You then leave my class and you go to gym. You then leave gym and you go to physics. You leave physics, you go to English. And you're like, there's literally zero connection amongst them. So we're asking kids to sit in economics, flow, like learn as best as you possibly can, be focused the entire time. And then all of a sudden, boom, go into physics and learn something completely else and flow in something else. It's just, you can't do it. It's impossible. So when you compartmentalize your life like that, it is impossible to flow because everything is just compartmentalized. So in terms of school, in terms of education, in terms of what we do in here, I want everything to kind of be just on the same level. So like if I want to learn like history, math, and economics, well, I'm going to learn about like, we're going to learn about, I don't know, Elon Musk just sent a damn spaceship to the moon. So let's learn about that, right? So we're going to talk about like, that spaceship going to the moon. How do we craft this spaceship? Well, while you're crafting the spaceship, you're obviously going to have to learn about history. You're going to have to learn about finance to build the damn spaceship. You're going to have to learn about physics, but it's all connected. So to me, that's what flow is as well in sports. So like so many kids, when they get in the box, they're thinking about like every goddamn thing out under the sun, and there's no connection, right? There's just no flow. So generally when I talk about flow, that's what I'm talking about, more than just like the scientific definition of hypotransient frontality. But
all right, so I know we don't want to talk a ton about the education system, but you talk about flow, and as you were talking earlier, I started thinking, and I don't have kids myself, so I haven't really looked into the school system, and my wife and I haven't really dove into that much. But the Montessori schools,
yeah,
I believe that's how you say it.
Yep.
Why don't you go teach at one of those? I feel like that system is more along the lines of what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a great point. So Montessori does a from what I've never been. My kids are still too little, but my nieces have gone to Montessori schools. I'm familiar with the system, and yeah, it is generally what I believe the system could be, where kids are not put by grades or ages, which is another handcuff to the school system. So we're going to put all these 13-year-olds together, and we know. And in baseball, like, that's the funniest thing in the world. You see the one 13-year-old kid who's 6'2" and just crushing, and he thinks he's really good because he's bigger than every other 13-year-old he's playing with. Like, why don't all the kids play together and grow? And that's what we do in our facility. So there's no like age group specific shit. We have 9-year-olds hitting with 15-year-olds and 15-year-olds hitting with our pro guys, right? Why not? Mm-hmm. So yeah, Montessori does a good job of not being age specific and allowing kids to kind of focus on what they're curious about. So yeah, I completely agree with the Montessori system. The issue that most I'll have Montessori is it's younger kids, right? Yeah. So you're looking at 4-year-old to 9-year-old. Dude, if I had to spend more of an hour with a 7-year-old kid, I'd lose my mind. So I try to focus more on like 16 to and above.
Yeah, and what's funny, you mentioned the system. There's so many parallels with education to baseball, and I think about the youth group and the exact thing what you just said right here. You have that 12-year-old that thinks he's really, really good. He's got the shaved bat, the rolled bat, and he's way bigger than everybody else. And the system won't allow him to play up. Yeah. Now, it does a little bit more in travel baseball. They can do that. But you talk about the old school, Little League or Cal Ripken or Babe Ruth, they're not allowed to progress to another age group. And a lot of times you have players that are in 7th grade because of their birthday. They're playing with players in 6th grade, and then they get to high school and they rip the Band-Aid off, and then all of a sudden they're like, wow, I'm really not that good. But it's the system that corrupted them, and then a lot of times the players quit because they can't handle the failure of it, right? It's the same thing that you're talking about in the education system.
Yeah, and it's 2 points that are tied between the educational system and this support system to what you just talked about. We are so conditioned to believe that, like, I need to be competitive, right? So we're so ego driven. So as a parent, I want my 12-year-old kid to be the best on the field. So if he plays against 15-year-olds, well, he's not going to be the best on the field, right? But I need him to be the best because A, it validates me as a parent. Oh, look at my kid. My kid's the best kid on the field. This is awesome. I'm a good parent. Yep. So it validates their ego. That's the first problem. That's why even if like Little League was like, play whatever age group, you would have parents that are like, no. Let's play the same age or let's play down. I mean, that's very common with parents. Like, hey, do you think he should play 15U? And you're like, but he's 18, dude. What planet are you on? So that's the first issue that you have. And I think that, again, that comes from that uber competitive. And I don't want this to get twisted. I love competition because I love feedback. But I don't like competition because of it's going to validate my ego and we're going to be able to judge people. So to me, our competition system in America is zero sum, meaning like if that kid's good, that kid's bad. If that kid's bad, that kid must be good, so on and so forth. I don't believe competition is zero sum. I think everyone should be able to benefit. So like the 12-year-old kid in here who trains with our 16-year-olds is clearly the worst kid in the facility at that time, but he's getting better. And the 16-year-old kids who are clearly better than the 12-year-old kid, as long as they're getting better, then it's a net growth for everybody. So you have a positive sum system. And that's where honest feedback comes into play, right? And that's where I think the sports system should be. It should be, dude, go play at the level with which you're going to get pushed. And for some 15-year-olds, that may be playing against 18-year-olds. For some 15-year-olds, that may be playing against 13-year-olds. Who knows? But, hey, let's all just get better and grow. And it's so funny to me, to your point, Kyle, and you see this a lot more than me. Like, I look at a really good 16-year-old in the local area, and everyone's like, oh, he's a stud. He's great. And I'm like, dude, have you seen the 16-year-olds getting picked out of the DR? Yeah. What planet are you on where you think your kid is good? When you're looking at this 16-year-old, what's the kid, Wando Franco, whatever the hell his name is?
Yeah, Wando Franco. He's in our org. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that dude's like 12 years old and is an absolute monster. And our 12-year-olds are playing with these juiced bats on 180-foot fields, and because they happen to be bigger than other kids, They don't get that honest feedback that, dude, you're not that good, bro. And then conversely, which I hate, I was a little kid growing up. The little kids think they suck, right? Because they're like, well, I can't even swing this damn bat. You know what I mean? So you're like, it's just such a perverted way to do things, and it's all based on this weird obsession with like driving your ego. And unfortunately, and I've said this to all our parents, so I probably offended a lot of them already. It comes from the parent ego, you know? Yeah. And then you guys coach travel baseball. I mean, how many times do you go to a championship game and the team, you know, in some random ass tournament in Nowhereville, North Carolina, and the kid on the other team is at like 180 pitches on his third game of the day pitch, and you're like, dude, what planet are you on, bro? Just to win a tournament? So again, why? Because, well, we're better than them. I feel good about myself. I get in the car and we're good. But dude, you're not good. So yeah, that the parallels between the school system and coaching and what we do here, they're perfect. It's unbelievable.
So I got a question that I want you to give me a one-word answer on, yes or no. And it's, when you started actually coaching kids, did your understanding of your own swing and what you used to do, and just your understanding of the game, did that immensely increase?
Oh, yes.
So I love what you said when you have a 16-year-old helping a 12-year-old. So like, not only is that 12-year-old getting better because he's surrounded by better competition and people doing things that are further advanced in their baseball lifestyle or life cycle, I guess, but that 16-year-old is getting better because he's having to help someone else and explain and articulate his thoughts. And then it makes him think a little bit more. And that is brilliant. But you're right. The parent's ego, why the hell is my kid hitting with a 12-year-old? Yep. Why is he hitting with a 9-year-old? Well, yep. Whoa, let's change the way we're thinking here. And that's really, really hard to do. Really hard.
Yeah, you're completely right. And I can't, 99.9999% of the kids that we train are not going to get paid playing this sport. So like that skill that 16-year-old is learning by communicating with a 12-year-old and, you know, talking and growing, and that's going to transcend the facility, right? So like that was always my goal, because like I think I know enough about the swing to help kids get better at swinging a baseball bat, like in some sense, whatever, you know, better we define better at. But then like, okay, so if the kids aren't going to get paid to play this game anyway, then literally once they stop playing, that value is completely gone, right? So there's no skills that transcend. So that was always my goal here, is how can I develop skills that are going to transcend, right? So how can we do that? And to your point about playing up, those early years, I don't run our teams anymore, and I've kind of disassociated a little bit with the team stuff. But I'll never forget our 13 or 14-year-old team. I forget what it was. We were good, like real good group of kids. And we played in like a 16U league. Like, and it was the best time we ever had. We would get smacked, but the kids loved it. We loved it. It was awesome. And I'll never forget, we made it to the finals, because the playoffs, everyone saw us and we're like, oh, this team stinks. So and we wound up just winning and beating people. And I was like, dude, this is the best thing in the world. And I'll never forget after the season though. And I was like, dude, these kids are growing. Everyone's getting better. They're having a blast. After the season, I pull up to the facility and there's like 4 dads here. And I'm like, oh geez, well, they're here already. What's up? So they're like, hey man, coach, it was a great year. It was awesome. Really love it. But do you think in the spring we can play like, you know, maybe our age group? Why? Why do you want to play your age group? Oh, well, and they know the answer, but they don't want to give the answer. They want to play in their age group because they want to win. Mm-hmm. And you're like, all right, well, if you want to win, that's fine. Like, then let's just say it. If you want to win, fine. Let's just go beat the shit out of a bunch of teams and win. I'm fine with that. If that's the goal, why not? But, you know, everyone dances around that, you know. Oh, it's not about winning. It's about having fun. But yet your son's on pitch 280 after just catching 9 innings, you know, like, so – yeah, it's amazing to me how much you can learn by you know, being grouped and helping other kids, you know, and teaching and whatnot. So
yeah, and we went through that this past weekend. Most of our teams opened up, and we had like a hard 45 pitch limit, and one of our teams ended up coming up a little bit short in like a semifinal, and it's like, look, I'll wear this loss, like that's fine. I wasn't going to put us in harm's way, but a lot of times it seems like parents want it all. Johnny needs to be pushed. He needs to play better competition. And then we lose. And well,
Yep,
he's around better
and
athletes.
then they're playing on someone else's team.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're playing somewhere else. You're like, what do you do? Oh, that team's really good. What is good? What are we talking about? The best coaching job I've ever done was we were winning in the first inning. We put up like an 8 spot. And I was like, man, we're just going to beat the hell out of this team. And so we're winning nothing. And all of our kids are in the dugout kind of messing around. Like, I'm very big on learning. Like, the best time to learn is when you're in the dugout and watching and seeing things. And they're kind of messing around doing different stuff. And the other team, like, they were just hitting lazy fly balls to our outfielders. Our outfielders are just catching them, doing whatever. So, like, after one of the innings, like third inning, I guess, I was like, the entire outfield has to play on the infield grass, like on the infield dirt. And they're like, what? And I was like, you all have to play on the infield dirt, and you're going to get reads. So the ball's going to go all over your heads, and you're going to have to get reads, and you have to learn how to open up your hips and all this different stuff. And they're like, what? So I was like, dude, why not? Who cares? I'll never forget. We had some random, like, Point Beach skin field. And I was like, let's just see what happens. So that next inning, we do it, and this team's hitting these random pop-ups and getting doubles, right? And I was like, don't worry about the arms, because you're gonna pitch an inning, and then that's it. And the next guy's gonna come in and pitch an inning, because this focus is solely focusing on getting jumps, and every single kid is gonna play the outfield. So they're like, all right. So, like, the other team is like, what is going on right now? Because our outfield is playing and like 8-1, 8-2, 8-3, like, and I'm like, all right, well, now we gotta score. Okay, 10-2, 10-3, 11. It was the best game ever, and I'll never forget. It was like the 6th inning. It's like 11-10, and I'm on the bench by myself, and I hear right in my right ear, this guy's like, do you think we should move the outfield back? And I'm like, oh my God, what? And I look over, and it's a parent in the dugout, and he's like bright red, and he's like, you're gonna lose this game for us. And I was like, probably.
Maybe
Probably
so.
gonna lose, but this is gonna be a fun ass time to see if we can win. And I know we lost. I think we lost, like, I don't know, 13-12 or something stupid. And I'll never forget, I never saw that kid again. The dad and the kid were gone, and they quit, and they're like, that's just dumb, blah, blah, whatever. And hey, that's your choice. That's your prerogative. We were getting better that day. And it's funny that the coaches of the other team at the time I've run into over the years, and they're like, dude, do you remember the game? I was like, of course I remember the game. Dude, this is the best game ever. Bunch of 13-year-old kids having some fun. It was great. So I asked them, like, I was like, after the game, I was like, guys, I made y'all do that and we went over why I did that. And I was like, I don't ever want to do that. I never want to tell you what to play. That was just, you guys do what you need to do. And it was so funny. That team, the rest of the summer, those outfielders all played in. They were like, no, I love this. Let's get jumps. Let's get reads. And the pitchers were like, no, it's going to make me better because now I got to hit my spots. I can't just rely. Like, I was like, dude, this is awesome. So, yeah, I think winning sometimes handcuffs our learning. That's for damn sure. So.
Yeah, I love that too. Do I remember that game? Yeah, I remember that game. I lost half my team after that game.
But my business went under. What are you talking about?
Right. But I think it to me, like, talking about all this stuff, I think it's important for parents to be realistic and whatever your model is as a business or an organization, to be upfront in terms of what's our goal out of this. So are we looking to just improve as baseball players throughout the year? Are we looking to be challenged? Are we looking to get ready for varsity competition? Are we trying to get recruited? Are we trying to win? Do you kind of establish those goals up front, or is it more so like from the core of the parents and the players when you're kind of going about how to design your schedule and how much to push them, stuff like that?
Yeah, that's perfect. We have an open house every year. We do this big presentation. It's grown a little bit more in terms of baseball, the presentation. In the beginning, it was literally just about my thoughts on how we learn, education, how these kids are going to get better, both as athletes and as, like, human beings. But since we've grown and we've gotten a lot of, like, serious baseball players, and we've done, the kids have grown and gone on to, like, big time programs. We do like, we add in, like, okay, well, here's how our philosophy is also going to help you get recruited. Here's how our philosophy is also going to help you achieve on the field. Because I truly believe that our system or our philosophy and what we're building helps kids on the field as well. And that, to me, has been, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. We have all these fat heads on the wall from all the colleges. And if you told me 5 years ago when we started this, like, our kids would go to these schools, I'd be like, dude, you're out of your mind. I think the system has just done a great job of helping kids perform on the field. And we tell that to all the parents up front. a lot of people love it, are our biggest fans. And then, yeah, a lot of people say, this isn't for us. And that's cool. This market, as you guys know, is very saturated.
Mhm.
I go to the local tournaments place here, and there's 100 new teams every year. Like, who the hell's this team? When back in the day, it was like 2 main teams. So there's a lot of places to play. I just believe in my heart that most of the places don't actually have a philosophy behind what they're doing. It's just, hey, let's go win some games and, be the best, on the field that day. But
Yeah, and those teams are made up of, probably parents that, left a team and started their own so they can control the system and
yep.
control the development. And that's sad. But let's get into talking some baseball. I know what this show's about, but it fires me up that like the whole education, your philosophies, and I think you can probably tell like I'm gonna be going crazy the rest of today because of this conversation. I'm gonna go home and be like, hey, to tell my wife Chris that like we are not enrolling our kid in a regular school system. We're changing this process, and we're gonna be so much better. And to be upfront and honest too. I mean, we run a facility. And when we started it, it's the traditional facility, and we're kind of along the lines of how do we make this change when we already have an established business model, and it's kind of the same thing like the education system. But that's for further discussions, maybe a round 2 with you. But from a baseball standpoint, a broad question. What are some things that you're very intentional about when you're training your hitters, or what is your overall hitting philosophy?
Yeah, it's so funny. Again, I keep going off on tangents. Please just stop me if I get annoying or whatever. You can just tell me shut the hell up. Trust me. But it's funny to your point. When I started this, I didn't know any different. You don't know what you don't know, right? So I was very much like, oh, I know how to swing. Like I watched a video of what the hell is it? Epstein, right? So rotational hitting. I know this is how you do it.
The old rotational and linear days, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. There's 2 ways to hit, and this is the right way, and this is the wrong way. Very binary. And then school was the same way. I believed in. I got my master's degree in education, and one of my big first thesis papers was about like kids competing with one another to see who's better and shit. And I read it now and I'm like, did I write that? So yeah, you wind up growing and you wind up developing your thoughts. And when I first opened, I was like, I remember I was like, I can make every kid a better hitter. Like, I know I can. I know the swing. I watch video. We have the data. We have the tech. And then you start realizing that curve, the Dunning-Kruger curve, and a lot of people love that. A lot of people hate it. You start realizing you don't know shit, right? You're like, oh God, I don't know anything. So I started saying a lot less, right? So like, and again, I was able to do that because of the membership model. So in a lesson model, it's impossible to not say something, right? So if a kid comes in for an hour and you're charging them $100, in New Jersey, that's actually very low, to be honest with you, which is crazy to me that people pay like $150 for a lesson, but whatever. If someone's paying me $100 and I literally just flip to the kid and throw to the kid and don't say anything, the parents are gonna be like, what the hell am I paying $100 for? This is absurd, And then if I don't say something constructive, right, then it's the same thing. So I wind up like making things up, right? So like I'm throwing to a kid and he pops one up. So like, I don't believe in this, but this is just something I see a lot. Hey, you're dropping your shoulder because the ball went up, right? And you're like, stay on top of it. And the next
opposite. Yeah.
Right. The next pitch is the same swing, but the kid gets a hold of one and goes to the middle. See? Do you see Johnny? And the mom's like, yeah, this guy's a great coach. Here's $100. So the lesson model impairs your ability to not say anything. So that's when I was like, wait a minute. I have the capacity to not say anything, to step back and allow kids to kind of figure it out a little bit. And to me, that has become my instructional method, is to step back, divorce myself from a lot of this, and generally, like I say this generally, but allow kids to come to me. So like, hey, can you watch this? Hey, can you want to watch it? Yeah, dude, let's do it. And I'll never say no. Like, I'll always be like, yeah, dude, let's do it. But I allow the kids to kind of feel it out. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it's hurt some kids because a kid will come in who's shy or whatever for the first month. I don't say anything to him, and he's like,
This guy hates
am I
me.
doing something right or wrong? And I'm like, dude, I'm waiting on you, bro, because you got to learn to own it. You know what I mean? Like, so it takes a lot for a 14-year-old kid to come up to me now as the owner and whatnot to be like, can you look at my swing, or I feel this or I feel that? And I'm like, dude, yes, let's do it. But that initial like, hey, what do you think about this, allows me to like jump in. Where if I jump in too early, and you guys know this a lot better than me, when you're dealing with very high-end athletes as well, who kind of like think of themselves pretty highly, and I don't have that rapport yet with him, and I jump in, hey, did you ever try this, try this? The guy's like, dude, get the fuck out of here. I'm trying to hit. You know what I mean? I don't ever want to be that guy. So I allow kids to kind of figure it out, and I jump in when I believe that they want me to jump in and when they're ready. And that is like, I guess, the foundation to my approach of hitting. And then that's the macro. On the micro level, you know, I've changed a little bit over time in terms of my swing thoughts. I do believe that everyone's an individual. In terms of mechanics, I believe that there's a lot of individual things that kids do or people do that are good and beneficial, and then are bad and not beneficial. And I try to figure out, okay, so what is this kid good at, and can we make that better? What is this kid bad at, and can we make that a little bit better? And generally, I've seen that like none of the kids that leave here have the exact same swing, right? Kids that come in here, I'm like, you hit with Teacher Man. Like, you hit with a guy that loves Teacher Man. You know, I know that for a fact. And I love, not Teacher Man, the guy Doug Latta.
Yeah.
Doug Latta is a great dude. I talked to Doug, and he's helped me out a lot over the years over mechanics. Trent Otis from Zona Baseball is awesome. I pick their brain a lot, and I've modified a lot of my approach in terms of mechanics based on a lot of what they say. But even them or Doug, I'll know a guy that is from Doug's world because they, you know, you're from Doug's world, right? And that's fine. And I love Doug. So what I try to do is I try to look at the kid and say, all right, well, you know, here's what I think can benefit him. Here's what I think maybe can hurt him. And we go from there. Generally, I think there's basic principles that harm the swing. So I am huge on anti-sway. You know, I know that's a big Doug thing. When I sway back over my back leg, you know, I just see kids, they just get in trouble. And I think that comes a lot because they're not strong enough. So they want to gear up on that back leg to get momentum going forward. So that's one of the big things that like I cue in on that I'm not a big fan of. I personally am not a big fan of, I'm trying to be careful my words here, but what I believe people interpret Teacher Man to teach. So there's a lot of people that aren't Teacher Man that teach what they think he teaches. And I don't know Teacher Man, so I'm trying not to say what he teaches. And they're absolutely destroying kids' swings because in this facility, we're big on, you know, seeing live. So we blow kids up. Like, I love live. I love velo. I hate the tee. We had no tee November. Get the hell off the tee. That's just my personal opinion. Some kids love it, so we allow them to do it. But I love seeing what they do live. You know, under pressure, what are you doing? And to me, a lot of kids that dump the barrel or actively think about dumping the barrel get blown the hell up. So I believe that, yes, the barrel gets behind the baseball. It has to, right? In order to hit a baseball, it has to get behind the baseball. I'm not big on, I'll say, turning or supinating my hand early for most kids. Maybe some people need that, you know, and I'll jump on it. So some kids maybe, hey, you ever try this? I don't believe in throwing the hands, right? But some kids need that, you know, like, fuck it. If it's going to work for you, let's do it. So that's generally, I know it's not like a direct answer on my micro thoughts on the swing, but I try to take a little bit from everyone. And honestly, guys, I see a lot on Twitter from people saying that, like, oh, I take a little bit, but every single kid that you have does the exact same shit, right? So you don't take a little bit from you don't do that at all. You know, so I try not to be that guy at all. I allow kids to have ownership of their swing. If they're feeling comfortable with something, not comfortable with something, we get after it. the cool part about our facility is we have a guy, Mike Ridalewski. He's does our sports performance. So he's awesome in terms of allowing me to, or giving me information on different kids' physiological limitations. So, maybe he can't crank around his rear leg and dump the barrel as well as some other kids. I don't know, but he allows me. He talks to me about a lot of that stuff. So that was a long-winded answer on hitting, and I apologize.
But. What's funny too, just to jump in real quick. You've got the players that are teaching, like the instructor you said, dumping this barrel early, and they can get away with it when they're 10, 11, 12, 13, and they're not facing high velocity. But and the parents are like, oh my gosh, Johnny's hitting so many home runs and he's crushing the ball in the air and he's doing, I'm like,
yeah.
Johnny wants to play in college, right? Or he wants to play in high school, and he's going to start facing some higher velocity, and he is done.
Yes. And again, there are some kids, like I'll be honest with you, there's some kids that have come in and I've talked about doing this, like, supinating and doing all this other different stuff. And scap loading. Again, I'm also not big on scap loading. Like, I don't think anyone told Mickey Mantle, hey, you got to get into that scap and do it. Like, that shit happens naturally. The only time I really talk about that is with a righty thrower who hits lefty, because it's kind of like, it's a difficult movement because you're not used to it. Like, but when you throw, it's just a natural movement. So I talk about it to some people, but not to others. And then to your point, man, we had this kid, and I feel awful about it because it just happened like this winter. This kid comes in, he's like 13 years old, real little kid. And he dumps the barrel. And that's fine, dude. Like, do what you got to do. I don't really give a shit. But I told him, I go, dude, here's a baseball, throw it up and hit it as far as you can. So he throws it and hits it pretty well. So then I throw a baseball to him, and he dumps the barrel, and like it hits the bat. And because the bat is so vertical, right, it hits the bat, and the bat like moves, and the ball kind of. I'm like, all right, well, throw a ball up and hit it as far as you can. Great, throws it up, hits as far as you can. I go, now what you're gonna do is you're gonna pretend to throw a ball up and hit as far as you can, and then get right back into it. And I'm gonna throw a live pitch. So I videoed this session, guys, and the two swings, you couldn't like literally design them to be more different, right? Like the dumping the swing versus what he naturally wants to do with his body to hit a baseball were just completely different. So I post this on Twitter. No commentary, no nothing. I just say, here's what he's being taught. Here's what his body wants to do. I didn't even put like negative or positive or whatever. And immediately I start getting blasted from this religious hitting wing of people. And I'm like, dude, what the hell is going on? And I get a text from the dude's dad, and he's like, take this video down. We're never coming back, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? I didn't even – and again, it goes back to our previous conversations about ego, about all this stuff. Like, everyone wants to have the answer. Everyone wants to be the dude. Everyone wants their kid to be great. And you're just like, man, your ego is getting in the way of, like, growth, and it just amazes me. Yeah. Like, how as a dad do you not see that? I'd be like, no, like maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay that his natural movement of his swing is completely different than this, and that's fine. Let's like have a conversation about it. Nope. So that's what bothers me a lot about this Twitter hitting world that we live in. All these people are looking for the answer when, man, there is no singular answer. And that's again back to school. It's not about answers; it's about questions. Asking the right questions and discovering and creating. It's not about finding this singular answer and be like, yeah, I'm done. This is how I hit. And to your point, I mean, that's why we blow kids up. Like, they'll hit on a tee. They'll hit on a tee, and they'll look great. I'll be like, dude. And I'll put them side by side with Aaron Judge. And I'll be like, okay, those swings kind of look the same on the video. But then once I throw a little bit of velo or a little bit of challenge, and it's origami, dude. It just breaks down, And you're just like, well, what are we doing then? We want to hit on a tee, or do we want to hit in real life? So, yeah, it's tough because I see a lot of kids that are, I mean, for lack of a better word, brainwashed by, different hitting ideologies. So
you're preaching to the choir here, not to speak on Kyle's behalf, but I was a PO in college. Had to teach myself a lot of the offensive stuff, but I know Kyle's not a fan of back shifting or swing. And I think it's a point of pride with us that specifically him, I don't know if somebody would be able to say like, oh, he hits with Kyle. well, what do you teach? It's like, or what do your
Yeah.
hitters look like? Good hitters. I mean, that's what we're shooting for, right? And on base
Dude.
you, I mean, why make a kid do something his body physically won't allow him to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it's so funny. The LegKick Nation moniker has hurt me more than it's helped me, because so many kids in the area, so many coaches in the area think that you come in here and I make you leg kick. Like, oh, he's going to make. And it's so funny when kids come in, they start getting in, they start seeing it. They're like, dude, you don't even say the word leg kick, like ever. Like I don't even say, like, I may like say, hey, did you ever try this move, or you ever try to do that on this? But again, it's all just generally suggestions, and then data somewhat. And we can talk about data. I'm not a big fan of most of the data out there, and I know I'm probably going to get hated. It's a hot take, but I think there's a lot of holes in the data, and we're relying on this data to give us information, and then we're making decisions based on this data that I think is just completely flawed, because we're taking data in a training environment, right? And the training environment in terms of flow is completely different than the environment outside. So if we don't have data, like good usable data from hardware that actually works. Again, I'm not trying to get into this and get blasted by people, but get hardware that actually works with software that actually works and that actually is connected to performance. I think that is when I'll start believing in a lot of the data, you know. But we do have all the little toys, and we use it, you know, somewhat, and we use a lot of video. I'm still big on video. But yeah, it's crazy out there. Well, Jeff Fry, I guess. Yeah, I'm sure you guys know him. The old school versus new school bullshit. It's like, it's becoming, you have to choose one of the camps, you know? Like, dude, how about both of the camps? I could give a shit about what any of them are doing. So that's generally how we teach kids in here as well.
Well, this guy's a pro, Kyle. Perfect segue into the next one. So in terms of the data, or basically, how do you guys monitor progress with your hitters?
So, yeah, it's a great question. In the very beginning of this, again, like I said, I've changed because I think it's evolving. Like, I've changed so much over time. Like, I was so like, I'm going to get every gadget and I'm going to be the data guy. Like, I'm going to collect all this data. I'm going to get Diamond Kinetics, Blast, the K-Vest, Rapsodo. We're going to get it all. And then we're going to collect it. And then we're going to, you know, I'm going to put it on a spreadsheet and I'm going to create these cool graphs. And I did this, right? And all of a sudden, my follower count went up. Like, people started following me on Instagram and on Twitter and shit. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And none of my kids were getting any better. I had cool green-ass graphs that were like, oh, their exit velocity on the tee is going up. But in the game, he still stinks. So you're like, well, what the hell am I doing here? So then I stepped back and I was like, maybe this isn't the right approach, right? So I started looking at a lot of the things I was collecting data on. So like tee exit velocity. And then I'm like, why is that applicable? Like, why is tee exit velocity applicable to the game? And I was like, maybe it's not. And then I'm like, well, maybe it's actually impairing kids, because now they're trying to hit a ball as hard as they possibly can on a tee, and that's actually a different thing than the game. So I started going through a lot of the different stuff that I was working on and doing, and I was like, man, I think I'm harming more kids than I'm actually helping, while also growing in the baseball community, ironically, because I'm putting cool graphs together. So I stopped doing that, and my follower count stopped going up. But generally, our kids have been performing better on the field. One of the tools that I've been beta testing and I love is this thing called Pitch Aware, because it allows me to connect on-field performance and training performance. So basically, what we're doing is it has a charting tool involved in it. So we chart all the games, we chart a lot of the stuff, and we're going to do this in the summer and training in here as well. And you chart the game and you chart the training, and then you can overlay the data on top of it and start getting more of I hate the corny word holistic, but more of a comprehensive picture over the kid's performance and training, right? So that's been valuable. But outside of that, I think a lot of the reads, like, you know, one of the famous hitting tools, you put it on the ground and it shows a picture of a field and where the ball's going and whatnot. And we have kids, I'll hit a pop-up. Like, I know it's a pop-up. I know we're in a cage, but I know that's going center field. And it says like 480. I'm like, dude, you can't hit a ball 480. Like, you know, so I think there's just a lot of misreads in a lot of the data. And then there's a lot of holes because it turns into survivorship bias. So yeah, you run into one with a blast motion sensor on, and we get that data. But then you swing and miss, and I don't get any of the swing and miss data. But then I also don't know where the pitch location was, and then I also don't know how often you're doing it. I don't know like the longitudinal, view of this either. So I'm looking at singular data points, and it's very difficult to analyze singular data points and say, oh, this is a change you should make, and then those data points will be better. So I respect the shit out of Jason and Driveline. Like I like those guys. I think they're good people too. Like they're very open whenever I ask them questions, unlike some human beings on Twitter or that I've run into various circles. They're good. They're good at what they do in terms of a lot of the different stuff. But I'll question everything that everybody does until I am proven otherwise. So that's generally what we do in here.
I love that. I just looked up Pitch Aware too. It looks like kind of like a True Media, if you're familiar with that type of feel. It's got a lot of the heat maps and graphs and all that stuff, which is really cool for the players because we have hit tracks, and I'm certainly versed in using the Rapsoda units and all that stuff. But a lot of times those heat maps are coming from front flips or hitting balls off the tee. And it's like, oh, Johnny's really good at hitting the ball down and away and even out of the zone. But hell, when I get that velo machine on him, he struggles big time. So there's like, you have to look at it in a very open mind. And unfortunately, we get married to a certain thing. Like if I know the pelvic angles graph really, really well on the hit tracks, or I mean on the K-Vest, I'm going to get married to, oh God, this guy's not getting to posterior pelvic tilt. And that's the only thing I'm going to focus on. And meanwhile, it might be something else that unlocks everything else. Yeah. And that's the problem.
Yes. And I'm guilty of everything I've ever talked about. I'm guilty of. And I have to constantly watch myself and be like, whoa. Like you're going down the road of hypocrite here a little bit. But like, and I have a lot of friends in the industry or do different stuff, and they're all good at what they do. But like I said, like you said, like you wind up getting like in love and obsessed with this one little thing that you think is an answer to everyone. Like, like I like Eugene and I think 108 does a good job, but dude, like all I see on my Twitter feed is stick and kick. So you're like, well, like, is everyone sticking and kicking? Like, is that what we want everyone to do? Because if that's not what we want everyone to do, then why is every one of your posts that? Right. And I like the guy. Don't get me wrong. I love those guys. But, it's just, I just see a lot of that. And what you almost get insecure that you don't have something, right? Like, you're like, oh God, I better find something to get my name out there. I want to be I would love to be a AAA coach. How do I do that? Well, let me get my name out there on Twitter and shit. And the more I did that, the more I do that, you start realizing like, man, I'm going down the wrong road in a lot of ways. So, to your point, yeah, I mean, Pitch Aware, there's a beta version that I've been like testing a lot of, and it's been awesome because like the heat maps and the fan graphs are what they did for like colleges. I know they work with Oregon State on spray charts and stuff, but they have this like training tool that has enabled us to pull in a lot of different data, and then it gives us like different correlations and shit. So I was like, all right, well, at least there's some correlation stuff here rather than my dumb ass just trying to figure it out. So that's been helpful for what we've been doing. But there is no, like you said, there's no singular answer. Like, I don't think there's a singular answer out there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
There's a bunch of people trying to figure shit out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's totally. I can totally relate to that because like everyone has their stamp. Like, okay, they teach the scissor, they teach back leg snap it, and it's like, what's my stamp? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I coached a guy who hit 2 doubles this weekend. Is that cool? Like,
yeah, is that gonna get enough likes on Twitter? No, dude. And again, I really hope people don't take this the wrong way by saying like they're not good at what they do. Like, I wouldn't name you if I didn't think you were good at at what you did. Like, I genuinely, and why do you care what I think anyway? But yeah, I think a lot of coaches out there on Twitter or not on Twitter. I talk to a lot of college guys that aren't on Twitter, college coaches, and they almost feel like they're getting lost and left behind a little bit because they're not on Twitter. They're not getting these big followings. And you're like, dude, like, I'm telling you, man, from someone that knows a lot of these people, everyone is just, and I put it on Twitter all the time, nobody knows anything, right? People want to think everyone knows something, but if you go with the thought that nobody knows anything, I think it helps you find your own path. So
yeah, no, 100%. So the CLA, constraint-led approach. I know you guys use it. I know you're probably a big advocate of it because it allows players to be problem solvers, and we need a lot more of that. But and again, another broad question, because everybody's different. Everybody needs different things. You can't necessarily bucket players into certain things, but if you were to pick out your favorite 2 or 3 constraints that you use on a daily basis, or you see it used a lot in the facility, what would be, from a hitting side, a constraint that you guys use a lot?
So again, it's so funny because every question you ask, like, I just think back to like when we started and like to where we are now. And when we started, it was a lot of like weighted bats. Weighted bats were big. We did a lot of aggressive type drill work, like Happy Gilmore drills. I was a really big one-legged hitting drill. I call it open drill. I don't know what it looks like. What Teacher Man calls like stretch and fire. I call it open. So we were big on that. Over the last year or so, I've become I think one-armed swings, ironically, which I hated. I was like, oh, dude, you don't swing with one hand. That's so dumb. It's actually helped, I think, a lot of kids with path. So we've done that a bunch lately. Doug, Alada, and Jonathan had showed me the doggy toy thing where you like throw the dog. So kids love that. So that's been a big one that we've been using. But honestly, again, in the very beginning of this, it was all a lot of drills, a lot of tee work, a lot of flips, like get the swing down. And we've turned that over into, we're going to see as much velo and live as possible. And I know that's a big division in the hitting world as well. Do you want to be a swing? Do you want to train the swing before you become a hitter? Or do you want to become a hitter before you learn the mechanics behind things? I don't think seeing velo and live actually impairs your ability to work on mechanics. So it's not an either or for me. We have mechanics days, like we break our week, because like I said, our kids come every day. So we have mechanics days and what I call flow days. And each day you're generally going to be seeing some sort of velo or live, but it's about what you are working on. So when you're seeing velo and live on a mechanic day, I'm actively thinking about what my body's doing. You're going to swing and miss a bunch. That's fine. I could give a shit. But we're going to watch video. We're going to see what you're doing, how you feel, how it's working. Are you having success thinking of it? Whatever. And then the flow day is where we just shut off and we compete. And literally just have this monster competition and talk shit to everybody. And so that's generally the constraint that I have now is let's just me get in your brain. I talk as much shit as possible to kids. And the other coaches do, and the kids want to talk shit to each other. And to me, that is the biggest constraint because it adds the variable of pressure. So now if kids are talking shit to you, the pitcher's talking shit to you in here, you get amped up. You're like, oh my God, dude, your heart rate starts going. If you can control that in here in a game, you're absolutely, I mean, playing at Texas A&M and having people chant on you might be a little bit different, but at the local field, you should be okay. So
I love that. And I mean, I think a lot of coaching and growing too is throwing stuff against the wall and seeing if it sticks. And I look at it's almost like on social media, it's like, okay, how can I find the most random household object and turn it into some kind of tool? And we used to use pool noodles and all this different stuff. And like, but you know what? I think it helps you grow working through that. Yeah. And then, I mean, along your point, like I read an article about how Tiger Woods has ice in his veins. And when he practiced putting, he'd do wind sprints and to make him putt with his heart rate up. So a kid couldn't throw strikes. I'm like, all right, we're doing sprints and then throwing with our heart beating out of our chest. He threw a couple strikes and it's like, hey, maybe it worked. Another kid almost had tachycardia. So it's so with all these like growing throughout the years and it seems like you guys are very comfortable in your model and it's had a lot of success and that's awesome. With being kind of the different, more empowering model, how do you go about establishing trust with your athletes?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll preface that with, yeah, we've had a lot of success, but I'll be the first to admit that, we've also had failure. Like, I think that's another thing that you see. You only see on Twitter and on social media, and again, to go back to 108 on the scissor kick and all that stuff, we only see that because that's what he puts out. Now, I know Eugene. I've talked to him behind the scenes, so I know that a lot of these guys do different stuff. But on Twitter and on the social media world, you only see the successes. So right now, I'm talking to y'all, and it's like, dude, everything in here is great. This is the best place in the world, But we have failures, we make mistakes, and that goes to the question on trust. Like, I'll be the first to say, literally the first to say, man, I made a mistake there, bro. Like, I fucked up. Like, that's fine. Like, that's cool. That's how we're gonna grow. Let's analyze our failures, right? Let's figure that out together. So I think, and I put this on Twitter yesterday. This is like, it's so critical to have trust with everyone in the building, because with trust comes honest feedback, the ability to have honest feedback. Without trust, you can't have feedback, because you're like, I don't trust what this guy's saying. And the only way to grow is like via feedback, right? So yeah, I mean, we rely on unquestioned, authentic trust, and I think that comes from the ability to say, man, I think this is right. I think this is wrong. I messed up, and like I said, putting kind of your money where your mouth is. So I'm older now, and it sucks. Getting old blows. You guys seem like you're young and in shape, but I still try to compete as much as I can. So we play spike ball in here all the time, and I'll talk shit 'cause I'm the best spike ball player in the facility. God just looked at me. It's true. And the ability to kind of hang in and compete, allows me to kind of like connect with the kids a little bit. You know what I mean? So our coach, our other co-owners, Rob Corsi, who pitched at Rutgers and pitched a little bit, and then Howie Bray, who pitched at Rutgers and pitched the Astros. Rob Smorrell pitched at Rutgers, pitched with the Boston Red Sox. We all compete. We throw live. And we talk shit, and and the kids talk shit back to us. And so it enables this authentic stuff. Like, I work out with the kids, and I'll talk shit with them. Like, I did a Murph the other day, and I was videoing it, talking shit to everybody. So that enables us to, I guess, stay connected, And Kyle, I think you mentioned this earlier. My philosophy has always been like, let's be here. The kids are here and I'm here, rather than I'm here and the kids are here. So if I can stay competitive for at least a little more while, as I'm kind of young, I think that I'll be able to continually connect with the kids, and grow that trust, that like, dude, he's in it, he's in it with us, right? Like, he's in the shit with us. So that's to me, trust is one of the pillars of our facility for those reasons.
That's awesome. And I can imagine that when you guys do the spike ball days, that's probably one of the most fun that your players have. But when it comes to just overall, and let's remove, Steve Johnson, the greatest spike ball player that ever lived. Let's remove that from the equation. Let's remove the fact that you guys do that in the facility. What is something from a player's standpoint that they absolutely love? Like, they might be going through their mechanics days, they might be going through their flow days, but they can't wait to get to this day to do this because we know we're going to do it.
Yeah, I would think, I don't really know. I just based on the turnout and based on the environment that it creates. In the winter, we call it Live Saturday. So it's you come in, and basically you get in teams of 4. I'd say there's around like 70 to 100 kids, say, and all the kids get into teams of 4, and we have three fields and a main field, and it's just live ABs, and it's usually me and the other owners throwing and talking trash. And the team that scores the most runs gets a T-shirt at the end of but nobody scores runs. You know what I mean? Like, you score 2 runs in this event, because we take it so. I'm telling you, Kyle, I'm drenched. Like, we're drenched. We're exhausted afterwards because it just gets so exciting. And we have, if you strike out 4 times in a row, you have to hit the rest of the day with a giant sombrero on your head. And dude, when you strike out for 3 times, everyone knows. Everyone's like, yo, he's coming up for his 4th. And everything shuts down, and everyone surrounds that one field or the one live AB session. and everyone is just chanting because you want this kid to strike out, you know? And the kid's always like, just play, because he doesn't want to get the sombrero, get posted on Instagram. I think that is probably what people look forward to most is just live Saturday competing, because everyone likes to compete, you know? And they like to compete in a non-judgmental environment, right? So it's like competition, but it's like no one's gonna like, you know, my dad's not here to tell me I stink, and the car ride home's not gonna be awkward. You know, it's just true competition. You know, that I think everyone gets fired up, and that's a lot of college summer leagues are closing this summer, so we're doing we're basically expanding live Saturday into live Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this summer. So we're doing like weekend series. We had a draft the other day where we drafted kids. We have one of the co-owners started a Twitter account. He's like Bob Santanowitz, and he's the PR guy for the league, and he has all these like scoops and doing all these stupid videos. So we try to make that as fun as possible. I think that's what, you know, kids look forward to the most, I would assume.
And you're changing their view or their perception on failure, which was huge. You know, I mean, that to me is when you just said that's what resonated with me. It's like, how do we change? And I talk to our kids about this all the time. How do we change our perception of failure? Because so many people are so scared of it. And it's because of the dad or because of certain people are coming down on them for a sombrero or certain things. And I know I've certainly struck out 4 times in a game because it's freaking hard. And it's funny when you say that, because I think about, you know, you get up that 3rd time and during those games, not only you got the pressure of what's going on, but you got your teammates that are like, oh, dude, he's about to strike out 4 times. We're going to wear him out, you know?
We're getting smoked. Who cares? Let's watch this.
Yeah, dude, exactly right. Yeah, but again, if you played at a high level enough, which, you know, y'all have, and you know, again, another aside, which is fucking every question you guys ask, I have an aside. It's funny. Like, I think you can literally teach and instruct and never play at a high level, but I do think there's a lot of value to playing at a high level, right? There's a lot of information that you gain from playing at a high level that if you didn't play at, you don't really get it. Like standing in the box against 95, 97, there's just something like you have to experience that to be like, holy shit, that's a different world. So like hitting on a tee and seeing 95 isn't even in the same universe, right? Mm-hmm. And until you see that, you're like, oh wow, I don't really know, you know, what that's like. So I think having that experience of going 0 for 4 of what failure actually is at the high level enables you to realize, well, we have to really help these kids understand that failure isn't just like, you know, maybe happen, especially in baseball. It's absolutely going to happen. And going back, you know, to the for the 5 people who are still listening to this, they're going to be like, this guy always goes back to school. It comes back down to school to me. In school, success is getting the most amount of answers right. So like on a test, I need to get 9 out of 10 right, or 95 out of 100. Like that's what's rewarded. But in real world, in the real life, like the quantity doesn't matter, the magnitude matters. You could get 99 wrong, but if the one you get right outweighs the other 99, that's awesome. Which is why like old school baseball players or people don't totally get that like Aaron Judge striking out 200 times but hitting 50 home runs is actually a really good thing, because the magnitude of the home run, especially with the advancement in pitching, is so much more important than just getting hits, because stringing 3 hits together no longer makes sense against Max Scherzer. So, you know, teaching kids how to not only like understand failure is going to happen, but actually like chase it, like actually like look for it. Like, shit, I'm going to challenge myself so much that I'm going to look for that failure, I think is one of the biggest things that like all kids should be able to do. And that's why I don't like the grading system in school, because you're telling kids, dude, don't fail. Like, don't ever get like more than 5 wrong. You know, you have to get this number right. Where it's like, dude, no, you have to chase that. And all of our freshmen in college always come back and they always say that. They're always like, man, you always chirp about like chasing failure and how like you have to like, dude, to be a baseball player, you almost have to, you know, like love failure. You almost have to be like really weirdo, you know, like, cause you'd wind up killing yourself, you know, like I'm literally going to go 0 for 20 at some point. Like, and you're like, dude, I can't do this. But if you're chasing that and you know that like, hey, dude, like I'm getting better, I'm growing, I'm developing, you're going to enjoy that. You're going to love it. So all the kids that come back always say that. They're always like, man, dude, like, you weren't wrong. You know, we had a dude play at Elon this year, and he goes and they play like UNC in a weekend series, and he goes 0 for 12. You're like, yeah, dude, welcome. Welcome to and he hit it 600 in high school. You're like, dude, that's what it's like, man. Those are the dudes that succeed, not just in baseball, but in life. You know what I mean? Like, how many failures do successful businessmen have? But then that one time they hit it big, And I think that's what we need to be creating both on and off the field. So
yeah, no, and it goes to perception. I mean, those that have played at a higher level and have had those failures, they have that perception where the majority, like you said, the 99.9% are not going to be getting to that level. And it's really, really hard to overcome the masses when you're trying to instill that perception, into parents, into players, on what works. But I love everything you said, man. It's fantastic. I got 2 more questions for you, and then we'll let you get back to talking some shit with some of the players or guys that you have in the facility. What is something you're currently diving into? And it can be education, it can be hitting, it can be pitching, it could be, the human element. What is something that you're currently, all amped up about or diving into during this time?
Man, well, I mean, I'm not going to talk about this here, but it's very difficult to not be very, very into the political landscape of what's happening in our country. So I'll just mention that. My wife has a pretty good following on Instagram. She's an influencer, whatever you want to call those stupid things. So she's been at some of the stuff that I've been seeing on that end is just insane. So like I've been getting into that a little bit, but in terms of what we do here and my personal life, the big thing that we've been trying to do is develop a school. That's always been my end goal, is to open up my own educational facility. So we've been looking hard into that, developing, all the things we need to develop in order to open a school up in New Jersey. So that's taken up a lot of my time. And in terms of baseball specific, it's just, this is such a unique time for all baseball athletes, because it's never happened before, really. Like, how many times have you gone, for these kids, how many times have they gone months without doing anything, right? So I'm very, very, interested in and looking up and researching how kids can come back and do things healthy. Like, how can we train in a healthy manner, and then what level of training is going to help them get back to, like, not to get back to where they were, but get them on a path to be even better. So, is that low intensity? Is that high intensity? Is that more ABs, less ABs? So that's sort of the conversation we've been having a lot, because all the kids want to get back and play. All the kids want to get back on the mounds, but are they ready? Are they going to get hurt? Again, I coach and teach a lot of under, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. Those are kids. So, it's one thing to tell Major League Baseball players to get their asses out there and get on the mound. It's another thing to tell a 15-year-old kid, get out there and throw 100 pitches. So that's sort of, a lot of what I've been delving into on our end.
And I love that you brought up, what's going on in our country, and we won't dive into it, but, it really is sad that the division that we currently still have. And, I'm a huge country music fan. My grandfather's from the South, and he introduced me to Garth Brooks back in the day. And, and some of my hitting coaches and colleagues at work say, don't listen to country music, because Trevor Moad came out with that, country music's all negative. But I was watching something the other day, actually just laying in bed watching TV, and I saw a Garth Brooks special, and they talked about the song that he created during the 1992 riots in California. And the song was "We Shall Be Free." And it's like, to anyone that's listening, if you sit down and you just listen to the lyrics of that song, which I had never had, but it's something that's so prevalent, 28 years later, and it's really sad. But thanks for mentioning that. I won't go off on my soapbox. We won't turn this into a political conversation, because then it would be an 8-hour podcast, and we'd have 10, 15 episodes, right? But Steve, thank you so much for your time, man. Your ideologies and your ways, open mind. Like, anybody would be crazy if they didn't, come see you, come train, especially if they live in the New Jersey area. You're doing some really, really cool things. And I've followed you along for the last couple of years, and I'm super appreciative that we had the opportunity to connect, and hopefully we can continue to do so throughout the times. And anything you need from us, myself, Danny, our facility, we'd be more than happy to help in any way. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it, guys. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much.
No, just take it easy on us on the weekends if we see you guys. We're a little thin pitching wise right now.
Yeah. Bring the outfielders in and let them play at the infield. We're good.
Yeah, I'll play them on the dirt.
Yeah.
And throw a soft lefty, please.
That's great.
Awesome. Good stuff, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.